Jake Morrison walked slowly along the fence line of New Haven Colony. His right leg still hurt from the old battle wound, but he pushed through the pain. The evening patrol was his favorite time of day. The twin moons were rising, casting long shadows across the fields where the colonists grew their food. He had been doing this job for 3 years now. After 15 years fighting the bug wars, Jake was tired of killing. The colony security job was peaceful. Most nights, he only had to chase away the local animals that tried to eat the crops. It was a good life, even if it got lonely sometimes. The communication device on his belt buzzed. "Jake, this is base. Everything quiet out there?" The voice belonged to Paul Rogers, the colony administrator. "All clear, Paul." "Just me and the night creatures," Jake replied, adjusting his patrol rifle. The weapon felt heavy in his hands. He rarely needed it these days, but colony rules said he had to carry it. Jake stopped walking when he heard a strange sound. It was soft, like someone crying. He turned off his small flashlight and listened carefully. The sound came from the direction of the old water tower about 50 meters away. His training kicked in. Jake moved quietly toward the sound, keeping low. During the war, strange sounds at night usually meant trouble. Even on this peaceful colony world, he could not shake the habits that had kept him alive for so many years. As he got closer, Jake could see a small figure sitting at the base of the water tower. The figure was hunched over, shaking slightly. Jake raised his rifle, but something made him hesitate. This did not look like a threat. The figure looked up, and Jake saw the unmistakable shape of a Veltai. The insect-like creature had 4 arms and a head that reminded him of a praying mantis. Her skin was a dark green color, and her large eyes reflected the moonlight. Jake's finger moved to the trigger. Every human in the galaxy knew what Veltai looked like. They were the enemy. They had been at war with humanity for over 10 years. But this one was alone, and she looked sick. The Veltai raised one of her 4 arms. In her hand was a piece of white cloth tied to a stick. Jake had seen this before. It was a surrender flag. "Please," the creature said in broken English. Her voice was high and musical, nothing like the war cries Jake remembered from the battlefield. "Please, no hurt." Jake kept his rifle aimed at her but did not fire. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "How did you get to this planet?" The Veltai fumbled with something at her side. Jake tensed, ready to shoot, but she pulled out a small device. It was a translation machine, old and damaged. I come for help," she said through the machine. The words came out choppy and strange. "My children. They need food. They need safe place." Jake stared at her. This was not what he expected. During the war, Veltai were fierce fighters who never gave up. They fought to the death and never asked for mercy. But this one was begging. "You have children?" Jake asked, lowering his rifle slightly. The Veltai nodded quickly. 3 little ones. They hide in cave. They hungry. Very hungry." Her voice broke, and Jake realized she was crying. The sound was different from human tears, but the emotion was the same. "Why should I help you?" Jake asked. "Your people are at war with mine." The Veltai struggled to stand up. Jake could see she was weak and thin. Her exoskeleton, which should have been shiny and strong, was dull and cracked in places. "I know humans take wives," she said through the translator. "I know human men protect families. I can be good wife. I can cook. I can clean. My children are well behaved. They will not cause trouble." Jake felt his mouth fall open. She thought he would marry her. She was offering herself as a wife in exchange for protection. The idea was so strange that he almost laughed, but the desperate look in her large eyes stopped him. "I work hard," she continued. "I learn human ways. My children learn too. We be good family for you, please. They so hungry." Jake looked at this alien creature who was willing to give up her freedom to save her children. He thought about his own family, killed in a Veltai raid 7 years ago. He thought about all the battles, all the death, all the hatred between their species. But looking at her now, Jake did not see an enemy soldier. He saw a mother trying to save her babies. "What is your name?" he asked. Zaraketh, she replied. It means Song of the Wind in my language. Jake made a decision that would change everything. He put his rifle away and took out his communication device. Paul, this is Jake. I need you to wake up Dr. Chen. We have a situation at the water tower. What kind of situation? Paul's voice was sharp with worry. Jake looked at Zaraketh, who was watching him with hope and fear in her eyes. We have a refugee, a Veltai mother with children. She needs medical attention. The radio was silent for a long moment. Jake, did you just say what I think you said? Yes, Paul. And before you say anything, she is not a threat. She is starving and sick. Her children are hiding somewhere, probably in the same condition. This is insane, Jake. We cannot harbor enemy aliens. She is not our enemy anymore, Jake said firmly. She is just a mother trying to save her kids. Jake turned back to Zaraketh. Come with me. We will get you some food and medicine, then you can tell us where your children are. Zaraketh fell to her knees, touching her head to the ground in what Jake assumed was some kind of gratitude gesture. Thank you, human. Thank you for giving us chance. As they walked back toward the colony, Jake wondered what he had just gotten himself into. But when he looked at Zaraketh struggling to keep up with his slow pace, he knew he had made the right choice. Some things were more important than old wars and old hatreds. The lights of New Haven Colony grew brighter as they approached. Jake hoped his neighbors would understand what he was about to ask of them. He hoped they could find room in their hearts for compassion, even for a former enemy. Behind them, the night sounds of the alien world continued as they always had. But for Jake and Zaraketh, everything had changed. The first step toward an impossible friendship had been taken, and there was no going back now. Dr. Lisa Chen was not happy about being woken up at midnight. She had been working late in her lab studying local plant samples when Jake's call came through. But when she saw the Veltai female sitting in the medical center, her scientific curiosity took over. My goodness, Lisa whispered as she looked at Zaraketh through the glass partition. I never thought I would see one of them up close like this. Jake stood beside her, still holding his rifle even though he knew it was not needed. She collapsed on the way here. I had to carry her the last 100 meters. Lisa put on her medical gloves and entered the treatment room. Zaraketh was lying on the examination table, her forearms folded across her chest. Her large eyes followed Lisa's movements with obvious fear. It is okay, Lisa said softly. I am a doctor. I want to help you feel better. The translation device on the table crackled to life. Doctor means healer? Zaraketh asked. Yes, exactly. Like your people must have healers too. Zaraketh nodded weakly. My mate was healer. He died in sky battle 6 months ago. Lisa felt a pang of sympathy. She began her examination, checking Zaraketh's vital signs with modified equipment. The alien's body temperature was lower than human normal and her heart rate was too fast. She is severely malnourished, Lisa told Jake. Look at her exoskeleton. It should be thick and strong, but it is thin like paper. She has not eaten proper food in weeks, maybe months. Paul Rogers arrived 20 minutes later, still in his sleeping clothes. He looked at Zaraketh through the glass with a mixture of fear and anger. This is crazy, Jake. We cannot keep an enemy alien in our colony. What if this is some kind of trick? Look at her, Paul, Jake said. Does she look like she could trick anyone? She can barely sit up. That could be part of the act. These bugs are smart. Remember the attack on Station 7? Lisa came out of the treatment room, pulling off her gloves. She is not acting, Paul. This female is genuinely sick and starving. Her body is shutting down from lack of nutrition. Paul looked uncomfortable. Well, what do you suggest we do? We cannot just adopt a Veltai family. Why not? The voice came from the medical center's entrance. Helen Brady, the colony's head teacher, walked in carrying a steaming cup of coffee. We adopted the Martinez boy when his parents died. We adopted 3 families from the Kepler raid. Why is this different? Because they are human refugees, Helen. This is a Veltai, our enemy. Helen sat down next to the glass partition and looked at Zaraketh. She does not look like much of an enemy to me. She looks like a mother who needs help. Jake felt grateful for Helen's support. He had been wondering how to convince the others that helping Zaraketh was the right thing to do. The Plea translation device is working better now, Lisa said. I connected it to our main computer. We can communicate more clearly. They returned to the treatment room where Zaraketh was now sitting up, sipping a nutrition drink that Lisa had prepared. Tell us about your children, Helen said gently. Where are they now? Zaraketh's eyes brightened at the mention of her offspring. They hide in old mining cave 3 kilometers north of here. Very deep cave, very safe. They wait for me to return. How long have they been alone? Jake asked. 2 days. I told them if I not return in 3 days, they should try to find other Veltai survivors. Lisa and Jake exchanged worried looks. 3 days was a long time for young children to be alone, especially if they were as hungry as their mother. What? Are their names? Helen asked. Zaraketh made a series of musical sounds that the translator could not convert. In your language, maybe. Chirp, whistle, and hum. They are ages like your 6 years, 4 years, and 2 years. They are babies, Helen said, her voice full of emotion. Paul, we cannot leave babies alone in a cave. Paul shifted uncomfortably. This is still very dangerous. What if other Veltai are watching us? What if this is a trap to get us to lower our defenses? Then we will be careful, Jake said. But we cannot abandon children no matter what species they are. Lisa finished checking her medical readings. There is something interesting here. Her genetic markers show that the Veltai were not always a warrior species. These genes have been artificially modified. What does that mean? Paul asked. It means someone changed their DNA to make them more aggressive, more suited for fighting. The original Veltai might have been peaceful, like farmers or artists. Zaraketh had been listening through the translator. Yes, she said sadly. My grandmother told stories of old times. Veltai grew beautiful gardens, made music, studied stars. Then the High Command changed us, made us into soldiers. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. You mean your own government turned you into warriors against your will? Many of us did not want to fight humans, but the genetic changes made us angry, made us want battle. Only some could resist the programming. Helen reached out and gently touched one of Zaraketh's hands. That is horrible. Your people were victims too. My mate was one who resisted. He became healer instead of fighter. That is why I loved him. Zaraketh's voice grew sad through the translator. When he died, I took our children and ran away from the war. Paul sat down heavily in a chair. This changes things. If what she is saying is true, then the Veltai are not our enemies by choice. We need to help her children, Helen said firmly. Jake, can you find their cave? Jake nodded. If Zaraketh can guide me, yes, but I want to bring backup just in case. I will. Come too, Lisa said. If the children are in the same condition as their mother, they will need immediate medical attention. Paul stood up and paced around the room. All right. But we keep this quiet until we know more. If word gets out that we are harboring Veltai, refugees, we could have Terran command breathing down our necks. What about the children in the colony? Helen asked. They will see the Veltai eventually. We should prepare them. One step at a time, Jake said. First, let us rescue the kids. Then we can worry about integration. Zaraketh tried to stand up, but Lisa gently pushed her back down. You need to rest. Jake and I will bring your children back safely. You promise? Zaraketh asked, her large eyes filling with what looked like tears. I promise, Jake said, and he meant it. Something had changed in him tonight. The old soldier who saw only enemies and threats was being replaced by someone who could see beyond species and old hatreds. As dawn approached, Jake prepared for the most unusual rescue mission of his life. He was about to risk everything to save the children of a former enemy, and somehow it felt like the most human thing he had ever done. Outside, the colony was still sleeping, unaware that their quiet world was about to become much more complicated, but Jake had a feeling it would also become much more interesting. Jake and Lisa followed Zaraketh's directions through the rocky hills north of the colony. The morning sun was just rising, casting long shadows between the strange rock formations. Jake carried his rifle and a medical kit, while Lisa brought portable scanning equipment. "The cave should be just ahead," Jake said, checking his GPS device, "behind that cluster of red rocks." They found the cave entrance hidden behind thick bushes. It was narrow and dark, barely wide enough for an adult human to squeeze through. Jake wondered how Zaraketh had managed to get 3 young children through such a tight space. "Hello?" Jake called softly into the cave. "We are friends of your mother. We came to help you." There was no response. Lisa turned on her flashlight and pointed it into the darkness. Maybe they are sleeping, or maybe they are too scared to answer. Jake tried again, this time using some of the Veltai words that Zaraketh had taught him. "Zaraketh sent us. Mother is safe. Mother is getting medicine." This time they heard a small sound from deep in the cave. It was like a whistle, very quiet and careful. "That must be one of them," Lisa whispered. "Let me go first. Children are less afraid of women, even human women." Lisa crawled into the cave entrance, following the narrow tunnel as it curved downward. Jake waited outside, listening for any sign of trouble. After what felt like forever, he heard Lisa's voice echoing from inside. "Jake, you need to see this. Bring the medical supplies." Jake squeezed through the tunnel, scraping his shoulders on the rough stone walls. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber about 10 meters wide. Lisa's flashlight showed 3 small figures huddled together in the far corner. The Veltai children were even smaller than Jake had expected. The oldest one, who must be Chirp, was about the size of a human 4-year-old. The youngest, Hum, was no bigger than a toddler. All 3 had the same large eyes as their mother, but their exoskeletons were soft and pale, not yet hardened like an adult. "They are so thin," Lisa said sadly. "Look at their little arms. They are just skin and bone." Chirp, the oldest child, stepped forward carefully. She made a series of soft musical sounds. Jake wished they had brought the translation device. "I think she is asking about their mother," Lisa said. "See how she keeps making the same sound. Pattern?" Jake knelt down slowly, trying not to scare the children. He pulled out his communication device and played a recording he had made of Zaraketh's voice, saying she was safe and that the humans were friends. The effect was immediate. All 3 children rushed forward, making excited chirping sounds. The youngest tried to climb up Jake's leg like a human toddler might do. "They trust us," Lisa said with wonder. "Look how quickly they accepted us." Jake picked up little Hum, who weighed almost nothing. The child's exoskeleton felt warm and smooth, like polished wood. Hum made a purring sound that reminded Jake of a contented cat. Lisa examined the children with her medical scanner. They are malnourished, but not as badly as their mother. Chirp has been taking good care of the younger ones. Jake looked around the cave and saw what Lisa meant. There was a small pile of nuts and berries in one corner, carefully sorted by type. A shallow pool of rainwater had been dug near the cave wall. Someone had even made small beds from dried grass and leaves. "Chirp did all this," Jake said with admiration. "She's just a child, but she kept her family alive." The journey back to the colony was slow. Jake carried Hum while Lisa helped whistle the middle child. Chirp walked between them, staying close but constantly looking around as if watching for danger. When they reached the colony's edge, they encountered their first human child. Danny Martinez was playing near the fence when he saw the strange group approaching. The 8-year-old boy stopped and stared at the Veltai children with wide eyes. For a moment, nobody moved. Danny had never seen aliens before, and the Veltai children had never seen human children. Jake held his breath, wondering what would happen. Then Hum, still in Jake's arms, made a curious chirping sound and reached out toward Danny. The human boy stepped forward slowly. "They look like big grasshoppers," Danny said, but his voice was not afraid. "Are they the ones whose mom is sick?" "Yes," Jake said. "Their mother asked us to help them." Danny reached into his pocket and pulled out a small toy car, one of his favorites. He held it out to Hum, who took it carefully with all 4 of his tiny hands. The Veltai child examined the toy with fascination, then made happy chirping sounds. "I think he likes it," Danny said with a grin. Word spread quickly through the colony. Soon, a small crowd had gathered near the medical center. Jake was worried about how the adults would react, but the children led the way in acceptance. 10-year-old Amy Foster brought her teddy bear to show Whistle. 12-year-old Bobby Clark offered to share his lunch with Chirp. The human children seemed to understand instinctively that these were babies who needed care and protection. "This is amazing," Helen Brady said as she watched the interaction. "The children are not afraid at all." Paul Rogers was less enthusiastic. "This is all very touching, but we still have practical problems. Where will they live? What will they eat? How do we explain this to Terran Command?" Dr. Chen emerged from the medical center with good news. "Zaraketh is much better. The nutrition treatments are working. She wants to see her children." The reunion was emotional. Zaraketh made soft singing sounds as she hugged each of her children. The little ones chirped and whistled with joy, climbing all over their mother despite her weakness. Jake watched the family reunion and felt something change in his heart. For years he had seen Veltai as monsters, as enemies to be destroyed. But seeing Zaraketh with her children, seeing the love between them, he realized they were not so different from humans after all. "Jake," Helen said quietly, "what do you think will happen now?" Jake looked at the mixed group of human and Veltai children who were already playing together, sharing toys and trying to communicate through gestures and simple sounds. "I think," Jake said slowly, "that these kids are going to teach us adults how to live together." That evening, the colony held an emergency meeting. Some residents were afraid, others were curious. But the children's easy acceptance of their new friends made many adults reconsider their own prejudices. "They are just babies," said Maria Santos, mother of 3. "How can we turn away babies?" "My daughter has not stopped talking about the little alien girl," added Tom Bradley. "She wants to teach her how to play hopscotch." As the debate continued, Jake realized that something extraordinary was happening in New Haven Colony. The barrier between two species was not being broken down by diplomats or politicians, but by children who saw past differences to the simple truth that everyone deserved kindness. The real test would come when the outside world learned what they had done. But for now, Jake was content to watch human and Veltai children play together under the alien stars, building a bridge that might change the future for both species. 3 weeks had passed since Zaraketh and her children arrived at New Haven Colony. The Veltai family was growing stronger each day. Zaraketh helped in the colony gardens, where her knowledge of insects made her valuable for pest control. Her children played with the human kids and were learning basic English words. Jake was checking the morning reports when his communication device buzzed with an urgent message. Paul Rogers' voice came through, tense and worried. "Jake, we have a problem. Long-range sensors picked up a ship entering our system. It is broadcasting Terran military codes." Jake felt his stomach drop. This was what they had all been afraid of. How long until they arrive? 6 hours, maybe less. It is the UTS Defender, Captain Ron Mitchell, commanding. He sent a message saying they are doing a routine inspection of all frontier colonies. Jake hurried to the administration building, where Paul was pacing nervously. Helen Brady and Dr. Chen were already there, looking worried. "This is bad timing," Helen said. "The Veltai children are playing in the schoolyard right now. Half the colony kids are with them." "We need to hide them," Paul said. "If Captain Mitchell finds out we are harboring enemy aliens, he could arrest all of us." Dr. Chen shook her head. "Where can we hide them? This is a small colony. Mitchell will want to inspect everything." Jake thought about Captain Mitchell. He knew the man from his military days. Mitchell was a good officer but followed rules exactly. He would see the Veltai as enemies, not refugees. "There is another problem," Jake said. Long-range sensors also picked up a distress signal from the outer system. It might be another Veltai ship. Paul's face went pale. "More of them? What if it is a military vessel?" "We do not know yet. The signal is weak and broken. Could be refugees, could be soldiers." Helen stood up suddenly. "I have an idea. The children can help us. They have been playing hide-and-seek games with the Veltai kids. They know all the best hiding spots in the colony." Jake was not sure this would work, but they were running out of time. He went to find Zaraketh, who was working. in the vegetable garden with several human colonists. Zaraketh, we need to talk, Jake said quietly. There might be trouble coming. She looked up from the tomato plants she was tending. Over the past weeks, her exoskeleton had grown stronger and shinier. Good food and rest had helped her recover. What kind of trouble? She asked. Her English was much better now. Jake explained about the incoming military ship. Zaraketh listened carefully, then nodded with understanding. You want us to hide? She said. I understand. Your military does not know we are here. I am sorry, Jake said. I know this is not fair to you and your children. Zaraketh touched his arm gently with one of her 4 hands. Jake, you saved our lives. We will do whatever you need us to do. The colony children took charge of the hiding operation with impressive organization. Danny Martinez became the leader, dividing the kids into teams. Each team had a job to do. Amy Foster's team cleared away any signs that aliens had been living in the colony. They collected the special food bowls made for Veltai hands and hid the translation devices. Bobby Clark's team created a network of hiding spots connected by the colony's maintenance tunnels. They had been exploring these tunnels for weeks and knew every passage. The Veltai children seemed to understand the seriousness of the situation. Chirp, now much healthier and more confident, helped organize her younger siblings. They practiced, moving quietly and staying hidden. It is like a big game, Whistle said in her improving English. But a very important game. 2 hours before the Defender was scheduled to arrive, Jake got more bad news. The distress signal from the outer system was getting stronger. Paul's analysis suggested it was coming from a damaged Veltai transport ship. This keeps getting worse, Paul muttered. What if there are more refugees on that ship? What if Captain Mitchell decides to investigate? Jake made a difficult decision. I am going to tell Mitchell the truth. Everyone stared at him. Jake, that is crazy, Helen said. He will arrest all of us. Maybe. But if he finds out we are hiding something, it will be much worse. And if there are more Veltai refugees out there, they need help. Dr. Chen pulled Jake aside. There is something else you should know. I have been studying Zaraketh's genetic samples. The artificial modifications in her DNA are breaking down. Her children show even fewer signs of the warrior programming. What does that mean? It means the Veltai might be returning to their original peaceful nature. The genetic changes were not permanent. Given time, they could become the artists and farmers they used to be. Jake felt a spark of hope. This information might help convince Captain Mitchell that the Veltai were not a threat. The UTS Defender landed at the colony's small spaceport exactly on schedule. Captain Mitchell emerged with a team of 6 Marines, all carrying pulse rifles. Jake met them at the landing pad. Captain Mitchell, Jake said, saluting. Welcome to New Haven Colony. Mitchell returned the salute. Commander Morrison, good to see you again. I trust everything is running smoothly here. Actually, sir, there is something I need to discuss with you, in private. Mitchell raised an eyebrow but followed Jake to the administration building. Paul, Helen, and Dr. Chen were waiting there, looking nervous. Sir, Jake began. 3 weeks ago, we encountered a Veltai refugee, a mother with 3 young children. They were starving and asked for help. Mitchell's face hardened. You harbored enemy aliens? Morrison, that is a serious violation of wartime protocols. Sir, with respect, I believe the situation is more complicated than that. Dr. Chen stepped forward. Captain, I have been studying their genetics. The Veltai were artificially modified to be warriors. The changes are temporary. They are returning to their original peaceful nature. Mitchell looked skeptical. That sounds like alien propaganda, Doctor. It is not, sir. I have the data to prove it. These people were victims of their own government's genetic manipulation. Jake took a deep breath. Captain, there is also a distress signal from the outer system. It might be more Veltai refugees. More of them? Mitchell's hand moved toward his sidearm. Morrison, where are the aliens you are harboring? Before Jake could answer, they heard voices outside. Through the window, they could see several colony children running across the yard, laughing and playing. Among them were Chirp, Whistle, and little hum. Mitchell saw them too. His eyes widened as he watched human and Veltai children playing, together completely at ease with each other. "My God," Mitchell whispered. "They are just children." "Yes, sir," Jake said quietly. "Just children who needed help." Captain Mitchell stood silent for a long moment, watching the mixed group of kids. His Marines waited outside, unaware of what their captain was seeing. "Morrison," Mitchell said finally, "you have put me in a very difficult position." "I know, sir, but it was the right thing to do." Mitchell turned away from the window. "The distress signal you mentioned. How many survivors might be on that ship?" "We do not know yet, sir. Could be dozens." Mitchell made his decision. "We investigate the ship first. Then we figure out what to do about your refugees." As they prepared to leave for the rescue mission, Jake felt hope growing in his chest. Maybe, just maybe, Captain Mitchell could be convinced that some rules were worth breaking for the right reasons. Outside, the children continued their games, unaware that the future of two species might depend on what happened in the next few hours. The damaged Veltai transport ship floated helplessly in space, its hull cracked and its engines dead. Captain Mitchell's rescue team found 43 survivors inside, mostly families with young children. They were in the same desperate condition as Zaraketh had been, starving, sick, and terrified. Jake watched through the Defender's view screen as the rescue shuttles brought the refugees aboard. These were not soldiers or warriors. They were farmers, teachers, artists, and parents who had fled the war with whatever they could carry. "Captain," Dr. Chen said, reading her scanner results, "the genetic modifications in these Veltai are even weaker than in Zaraketh's family. Some of them show no warrior programming at all." Captain Mitchell studied the data on his tablet. "You are saying these people were never fighters?" "That is correct, sir. They are exactly what they appear to be, civilian refugees running from a war they never wanted to be part of." Mitchell made a decision that surprised everyone. Instead of taking the refugees to a military detention center, he ordered his ship to return to New Haven Colony. "If what you are telling me is true," Mitchell told Jake, "then these people deserve the same chance you gave the first family." When the Defender landed back at the colony, word had already spread about the rescue. The colonists gathered at the spaceport, many bringing food, blankets, and medical supplies. The human children stood at the front of the crowd, excited to meet more alien friends. Zaraketh was among the first to greet the new arrivals. She spoke to them in their own language, explaining that the humans were friends who could be trusted. Jake watched as fear slowly left the refugees' eyes, replaced by hope. "This is extraordinary," Captain Mitchell said quietly to Jake. "In 15 years of military service, I have never seen anything like this." Danny Martinez ran up to a young Veltai child who looked scared and confused. The human boy offered his hand and said, "Hi, I am Danny. Want to be friends?" The alien child took his hand shyly and both children smiled. "The children make it look so easy," Helen Brady observed. "No fear, no prejudice, just simple kindness." Dr. Chen had set up a field hospital in the colony's community center. As she examined the new refugees, she made an important discovery. "Jake, you need to see this. Several of these Veltai have useful skills we desperately need." She introduced Jake to an elderly Veltai named Elder Trill, whose specialty was weather prediction. "My people study sky patterns for many generations," Trill explained through a translator. "I can tell you when storms come, when seasons change." Another refugee, a young female named Kes, turned out to be an expert in soil chemistry. "I help make plants grow in bad earth," she said. "Your crops will be stronger with my knowledge." Captain Mitchell watched as the colonists and refugees worked together to set up temporary housing. "Morrison, I need to send a report to Terran. Command about this situation." Jake felt nervous. "What will you tell them, sir?" "The truth, that we have discovered a group of Veltai civilians who pose no military threat and could be valuable allies." Mitchell paused. "I am also going to recommend that New Haven be designated as an official refugee settlement." 3 months later, New Haven Colony had grown from 200 humans to nearly 400 residents, including 150 Veltai refugees. The integration had not been perfect. There were still some humans who remained suspicious and some cultural misunderstandings between the species. But overall, the experiment was working. Jake walked through the expanded colony in the early morning, making his security rounds. The Veltai children had learned to speak English fluently, while many human children could now understand basic Veltai musical language. He stopped at the new school building where Helen Brady was teaching a mixed class of human and alien children. Through the window, he could see them working together on a science project about the local ecosystem. "Good morning, Jake," came a familiar voice. Zaraketh approached carrying a basket of vegetables from the community garden. Her English was now almost perfect, with only a slight musical accent. "Good morning, Zaraketh. How are the new crops doing?" "Very well. Kes taught us how to improve the soil chemistry. We will have 30% more food this harvest." They walked together toward the administration building where Paul Rogers was meeting with a delegation from Terran Command. The government had sent representatives to study the New Haven integration model. "Jake," Zaraketh said quietly, "I want to thank you again for what you did that night. You could have turned us away, but you chose to help." "You do not need to thank me," Jake replied. "You and your children have given us just as much as we gave you." It was true. The Veltai had brought knowledge, skills, and perspectives that made the colony stronger. Elder Trill's weather predictions had saved 2 harvests from unexpected storms. Kess's soil improvements had increased crop yields dramatically. Other Veltai had contributed expertise in engineering, medicine, and art. At the school playground, Jake watched Danny Martinez teaching Chirp how to play basketball, while Whistle and Little Hum played on the swings with Amy Foster. The sight filled him with hope for the future. "Uncle Jake!" Hum called out, using the honorary title the Veltai children had given him. "Watch me go high!" Jake laughed as the small alien child pumped his legs to make the swing go higher. Hum had grown considerably over the past months and was now one of the most popular children in the colony. That evening, Jake attended the weekly community meeting where humans and Veltai discussed colony business together. Tonight's main topic was the arrival of another refugee ship next month, this time carrying both human and Veltai families who had been living together on a remote outpost. "It seems word is spreading about our success here," Paul Rogers announced. Other mixed communities are requesting similar arrangements. Captain Mitchell, who had become a regular visitor to the colony, stood up to address the group. "I have news from Terran Command. The integration program has been so successful that the government is officially ending the war with the Veltai Republic. Peace negotiations begin next month." The room erupted in cheers and musical chirping. Jake felt tears in his eyes as he realized that their small act of compassion had grown into something that would change the galaxy. Later that night, Jake sat on his porch looking up at the stars. Zaraketh joined him, bringing 2 cups of the herbal tea that had become popular in the colony. "Do you ever regret that night?" she asked. "When you decided to help us instead of following your military orders?" Jake thought about the question, seriously. His life had become more complicated since that night. He had taken risks, broken rules, and challenged everything he thought he knew about enemies and allies. "No," he said finally. "That night I remembered what it means to be human. Not a soldier, not a colonist, just a human being who sees someone in need and chooses to help." Zaraketh made a soft musical sound that Jake had learned was the Veltai expression of deep contentment. "My children will grow up thinking it is normal for different species to live together as friends. That gives me great hope for the future." Above them, the stars shone down on a colony where human and alien children played together, where former enemies had become neighbors, and where a desperate mother's plea for help had blossomed into lasting peace between 2 civilizations. The war was over, but the real victory was not on any battlefield. It was here, in the simple daily interactions between species who had learned that they were not so different after all.